On March 19, 1992, as the morning light broke in Bombay, Bhaskar's alarm went off. Bhaskar turned off the alarm and went out for a morning walk. After the walk, he bought a few things. While returning home, CBI officers stopped him on the way. Chief Investigation Officer Laxman Rao picked Bhaskar up in his car and informed him that an inquiry would be conducted against him. Then he took Bhaskar to Magadha Bank, where Bhaskar originally worked. He had resigned from this bank just 2 days ago. However, since it was still early in the morning, the bank had not yet opened. Bhaskar asked Laxman Rao what his crime was. Laxman Rao replied that there were multiple complaints against him: embezzlement of the bank's funds, securities fraud, and bank receipt fraud. Bhaskar did not respond to the officer's accusations. He silently allowed the investigation to proceed. At that moment, Bhaskar received a call from his wife, who informed him that CBI officers were searching their house. Bhaskar asked his wife to cooperate with them. To understand why Bhaskar remained silent, or to determine whether he was truly guilty, we need to go back 3 years. In 1989, Bhaskar was just an ordinary employee at the bank. His monthly salary was only 6,000, while his outstanding bank loan amounted to 36,000. He also had several other unpaid debts. Despite this, Bhaskar was extremely dedicated to his job and had received the Best Employee Award 3 years in a row. Currently, his goal was to be promoted to the position of AMA, managerial role, or Assistant Regional Manager, as the current AMA was about to retire within a month. Bhaskar believed that once the position became vacant, he would be the top candidate. Bhaskar had another dream: owning a Maruti 800 car. This particular car had been seized by the bank from a loan defaulter and was parked at the office premises. Bhaskar used to look at it every day, thinking, if only I could buy that car. But first he had to repay his debts. Otherwise, dreaming was pointless. Since his salary wasn't enough to meet his needs, Bhaskar found a side hustle, helping bank customers fill out forms, for which he charged a small fee. This gave him a little extra income. When he returned home after work, many people would glare at him because they had lent him money. Bhaskar would always say, "I'll return it today or tomorrow," and somehow dodged them. After avoiding all those eyes, he finally reached home. Bhaskar lived with his father Prahlad Kumar, who had been a chartered accountant. After retiring, he started a business with a friend who eventually betrayed him and ran off with all his money. Since then, Prahlad stopped talking to others and barely left the house. Bhaskar's mother had died when he was a child. He had a brother studying engineering and a sister attending a degree college. Apart from that, Bhaskar had a wife and a son. That was Bhaskar's entire family. Somehow he managed to live with them, despite all struggles. That night, they were preparing to go to his brother-in-law's birthday party. Bhaskar's wife, Sumati, suggested they should bring a gift. But Bhaskar didn't have any money to buy one. Still, he didn't want to show up empty-handed, so they decided to gift their son Kartik's favorite toy. Bhaskar was poor. Even in his in-laws' house, he got no respect. No one treated him properly. People avoided him. Even though he had a wife, Bhaskar didn't feel important there either. Sumati's mother wanted her to leave Bhaskar and remarry someone else. Hearing this upset Sumati deeply. As if that wasn't enough, another upsetting incident happened. During the cake cutting, when Kartik handed a piece of cake to Sumati's future step-siblings, the woman gave him only a small slice. When Kartik asked for a bigger piece, she coldly said, "This is all you deserve." Watching this from a distance, Sumati became furious. She took Kartik and Bhaskar and walked out. After that, they went to a cafe. Kartik was hungry, so Bhaskar went to get burgers. But he didn't have enough money to buy 3. He asked the shopkeeper for 2 burgers. Understanding his situation, the shopkeeper took money for 2, but gave him 3. Kartik was happy to get food, but Sumati was heartbroken. She couldn't tolerate this level of poverty, insult, and humiliation any longer. Bhaskar consoled her, saying that things would improve one day. Somehow, he calmed her down for the time being. The next day at the office, a man named Anthony came to Bhaskar seeking a loan. Anthony had come the day before too, but since he had nothing to offer as collateral, Bhaskar had turned him away. However, Anthony returned, still hopeful. Bhaskar asked his friend Samba, the office peon, to handle Anthony. But Samba insisted that Bhaskar should help him. Anthony ran a business dealing in electronic parts. He had imported 30 TVs from Malaysia, worth 2.5 lakh taka. The ship's captain, who was Antony's friend, had agreed to deliver them in exchange for a 50,000 taka advance, with the remaining 2 lakh to be paid upon delivery. But now the captain was backing out. He demanded full payment up front. Otherwise, he'd auction off the TVs. That's why Antony urgently needed a loan. Samba advised Bhaskar that his uncle, who had made good money in construction, might be willing to lend 2 lakh taka. If Bhaskar gave Antony the money, he could recover the TVs. TV prices were soaring in India, and they could sell for a huge profit. Bhaskar would get a share of the profit too. Samba would also receive a cut. Bhaskar neither agreed nor refused the offer. He told Antony he would think about it and sent him away for the time being. The next morning, while Bhaskar was leaving for work, one of his creditors, Patal Bai, stopped him. Patal Bai was owed 10,000 taka by Bhaskar. He insulted Bhaskar publicly and even took away his scooter. Now, without a scooter, Bhaskar planned to take a taxi, but he didn't have enough money for the fare. So he ran all the way to the office. After reaching work, Bhaskar faced another shock. The promotion he had been aiming for was given to someone else. Bhaskar became very upset after hearing this. In the meantime, Samba showed Bhaskar a reference letter and said that the AGM sir had recommended his name to the GM sir in exchange for money from Sudhir. Seeing this, Bhaskar got extremely angry. He went straight to the AGM sir and started accusing him. In response, the AGM sir also got angry. He said that he knew Bhaskar took extra money from people for filling out forms, in addition to his official duties. He warned that he would report Bhaskar to the GM sir. Bhaskar got scared. To save his job, he held the AGM's hands and started crying. Finally, upon the recommendation of other colleagues in the office, the AGM forgave Bhaskar this time. However, Bhaskar realized through this incident that he could not survive in this world by being a good and honest person. So he decided to take a different path again. Bhaskar called Antony and gave him 2 lakh taka. Seeing Bhaskar hand over the money, Samba asked where he had gotten so much money. Bhaskar said that he had taken the money from the bank vault. Samba got frightened. If this information were to leak, both of them could lose their jobs and even face jail time. Besides, this kind of behavior didn't suit an honest man like Bhaskar. Bhaskar explained that after 2 days, his father would need to go to the hospital for a checkup. After a week, he would need to pay the child's school fees. He also had to pay his siblings' college tuition. But he didn't even have enough money to buy a bus ticket to go back home. With his back against the wall, he wondered, what good is honesty now? So, this time, Bhaskar was ready to take all kinds of risks. Bhaskar then told Antony that he should sell the TVs and give 20% of the profit to both him and Samba. Antony agreed to the deal. After that, Bhaskar went back home. Antony was supposed to return the money within 2 hours, but even after several hours there was no sign of him. So Bhaskar began to worry about many things. While feeling tense, Bhaskar's eyes swelled slightly. Then Sumati called and said that Samba had come. Bhaskar quickly went outside and saw Antony standing there, smiling with Samba. Seeing them, Bhaskar felt alive again. Antony returned the full 2 lakh taka to Bhaskar and also handed over 50,000 taka as profit. Antony had made 2.5 lakh taka by selling the TVs. Seeing Antony's honesty, Bhaskar hugged him with joy and took the profit money to Bhaskar Patel, paid off his debt and retrieved his scooter. From that moment, Bhaskar's life began to change. Bhaskar learned from Antony that there was a huge demand for TVs in India. A TV that cost 40,000 rupees in India could be bought for only 12,000 rupees in Malaysia. And if the order was large, it could be bought for as low as 8,000 rupees. But due to high taxes on imported TVs, they bribed customs officers at the port and brought the TVs as spare parts. In this way, they avoided paying taxes and made several times more profit. Bhaskar liked Antony's idea, and from then on he started regularly stealing money from the bank vault and handing it over to Antony. The next day he would put the money back in the vault so that no one would suspect anything. He began to make a lot of money. In a short time, Bhaskar paid off all his debts and improved his financial situation. Seeing Bhaskar's sudden improvement, Sumati grew suspicious. When she asked Bhaskar about it, he said that he had taken a loan from the bank and started a business with Sambar. Sumati believed him and was very happy. Bhaskar gave Sumati some money to buy a necklace, but Sumati said she would use the money to celebrate Kartik's birthday. They had never been able to celebrate Kartik's birthday before, so they invited all of Kartik's relatives and friends to a grand birthday party. The birthday celebration was so extravagant that everyone was amazed. Antony also came to the party. Bhaskar, Samba and Antony sat at a table together. Anthony shared that his son had gotten a job in America. His son wanted him to come to America as well, but Anthony didn't want to be a burden on him. He had spent all his savings on his son's education. So, before going to America, he wanted to raise a good amount of capital and start a business there. Then he gave Bhaskar a new idea. 3 foreign cars were coming from Dubai next Saturday. If they could manage 10 lakh taka, they would be able to buy those cars and sell them for much more because of their high demand in India. Anthony's offer was good, but it wasn't easy to take out 10 lakh taka from the bank vault all at once, so Bhaskar didn't show much interest at first. After the party, he went home and saw that everyone was really happy. Meanwhile, Kartik began crying tears of joy. He said that his friends always looked down on him and teased him. Kartik always had to go eat cake at other people's birthday parties. He never had the chance to serve cake on his own birthday. But today, when he was finally able to serve cake to his friends on his birthday, all the pain in his heart vanished. Kartik always wore the same t-shirt to his relatives' houses. So his cousin used to tease him, saying, "Can't your father buy you a t-shirt? You always wear the same thing." But today, when they saw Kartik wearing a coat and pants, his cousin fell silent. So, Kartik promised his parents that from now on, he would never disobey them again. Seeing his son so happy, Bhaskar changed his mind once again. He thought it was his duty to keep his family happy, and for that, he needed to earn more money. Bhaskar called Anthony and told him that he would arrange the 10 lakh taka by Saturday. On Saturday, Bhaskar went to the bank and, after overcoming many difficulties and dangers, he managed to take out the 10 lakh taka and handed it over to Anthony. Anthony used the money to buy the cars. But soon they ran into a big problem. The person they were supposed to sell the cars to had been arrested by the police, so there were no more buyers for the cars. The 3 of them were in serious trouble. The next day, Sunday, the bank would be closed and it would only reopen on Monday. Bhaskar needed to return the money to the bank vault by Monday morning, otherwise everything would be ruined. Bhaskar asked Anthony to check whether there were any interested buyers in other states. Anthony found out that a client in Goa was willing to buy the cars. They immediately made plans to go to Goa, but on the way they encountered 2 police checkpoints, and it would be impossible to cross with those imported cars. So Bhaskar came up with a plan. First, they put fake government number plates on the car. Then they dressed 3 fakirs like ministers and pretended to be actual ministers. Bhaskar dressed the girl up and hired a call girl to pose as a model. Then he took them all in the car and pretended to be VIPs, successfully evading 2 police checkposts and finally reaching Goa. There they made a profit of 20 lakhs from a car that was worth only 10 lakhs. Bhaskar gave 1 lakh each to the fakirs and the call girl from this profit. He divided the remaining money between Anthony and Samba. Anyway, after settling the matter, they dropped Anthony off at the airport. After that, Bhaskar went home and packed some of her dresses in a briefcase, along with the money. Then he left for the office. As soon as Bhaskar reached the office, he got tense. He noticed that the police had arrived at the bank. Bhaskar feared that the news of his reversed vote and the money he had taken might have been leaked. Bhaskar entered the bank nervously. Then he learned that the police hadn't come for him, but were there to arrest people involved in a scam where they took a percentage from clients in exchange for providing Agam and arm loans. After hearing this, Bhaskar managed to stay calm and escape the situation cleverly. Despite all the pressure, he successfully slipped away from the Bifrus officers. After leaving the money in the vault, GM Sir noticed Bhaskar's briefcase. GM Sir became suspicious of Bhaskar. He ordered the vault manager to check the vault's collection from the previous day and asked Bhaskar to open his briefcase. The vault manager reported that the cash count was accurate. Bhaskar also opened the briefcase and showed there was nothing inside except clothes. JM Sir then felt relieved and left. After this incident, Bhaskar decided to quit the world of crime. He shared his decision with Samba, but Samba didn't want to go back to living a poor life. He quit his job as a bank peon and started his own business. Bhaskar counted his savings and found that he had managed to save a total of 6 lakh taka. He kept the money in separate bank accounts under the names of his family members. But meanwhile, his brother got admitted to a college in London. Bhaskar spoke to the embassy and found out that the total processing cost would be 6 lakh taka. Thinking about his brother's future, Bhaskar spent all of the money he had saved. After sending his brother to London, he found himself back where he had started. However, Bhaskar was shocked when GM Sir and the arm caught him. But since 2 posts were vacant in the bank, The chairman promoted Bhaskar to the position of AGM on GM Sir's recommendation. Since Bhaskar's service record was excellent, he was nominated for this post. Bhaskar's salary increased from 6,000 taka to 19,500 taka, along with other bonuses. Bhaskar was completely overwhelmed with joy. The chairman asked Bhaskar if he had any other requests. Bhaskar said that the bank's Maruti 800 model car was his favourite. The chairman smiled and gave the car to Bhaskar. Before Bhaskar started his duties as AGM, the chairman warned him about a special client named Harsha Mehra. Harsha Mehra was their illegal client. There was a syndicate operating within the bank. Just like ordinary people need loans, sometimes banks also need loans. When that happens, one bank needs to borrow money from another. But according to the law, it is prohibited for one bank to directly lend money to another. So, the authorities of one bank transfer money to the account of a broker, who then sends the money to another bank's account. Later, when it's time to repay the loan, the same process is followed in reverse. These kinds of brokers are called Hassa girls. One such broker worked between Magadha Bank and Qatari Bank. Anyway, a person named Suraj handled all the paperwork and money transfers for Hassa. Suraj came to Bhaskar. Bhaskar gave Suraj a deadline of 14 days to repay the loan. Suraj mentioned that they might be a few days late in repaying, so he tried to bribe Bhaskar with an expensive watch. But Bhaskar returned the gift and firmly told him not to be even a day late in those 14 days. At the end of the deadline, Suraj came back to repay the loan, but after he left, Bhaskar noticed something strange while checking Harsha's bank statement. The money sent to Harsha's account was being transferred to another account, and they were circulating money internally. But the strange part was that the name of the Qatari bank from which they supposedly took the loan wasn't mentioned in the statement. That meant the loan money never actually reached Qatari Bank. Bhaskar met the AGM of Qatari Bank to discuss this matter, but that person was already bought by Hassa and did not help Bhaskar at all. Bhaskar began to wonder, if the loan never reached the bank, how did Hassa return the bank's loan? After investigating, Bhaskar discovered that Harsha was running a massive syndicate in the stock market. First, he would buy all the shares of a particular company. Then his people would start buying those shares at higher prices. Once the price of the company's shares went up in the market, he would sell all the shares at once. In this way, Harsha made a huge profit every time. After discovering this, Bhaskar thought of informing the chairman, but then he thought, what benefit would that bring to him? Instead, he should do what would benefit him directly. So, Bhaskar personally met with Suraj and gave him a condition, that for every loan they took, Bhaskar would receive a 1% commission. Additionally, Suraj would have to inform Bhaskar a day in advance about the shares they were buying or selling. With no other option, Suraj accepted Bhaskar's condition. From then on, Bhaskar's rise began once again. By chance, he received 25 lakh taka in commission from Suraj. But such a large amount with an ordinary banker could arouse suspicion. So, to turn this black money into white, Bhaskar met a man named Anwar and asked him to invest the money behind lottery tickets. They went to a lottery company and gave them 25 lakhs along with a 3% commission. In return, the lottery company gave Bhaskar the first prize of the lottery. The next day, Bhaskar checked the lottery results in the newspaper and acted as if he had genuinely won 25 lakh taka. In this way, he convinced his family and outsiders that he had won the lottery. After deducting commission and tax, Bhaskar received 17 lakh taka in hand. After that, he opened a trading account and invested the money in the stock market. Bhaskar took tips from Suraj and made trades through his personal account accordingly. In this way, he turned 17 lakh into 70 lakh taka in just 2 weeks. This was the story of how Bhaskar became a big man. Meanwhile, Officer Lakshman Rao checked Bhaskar's account details and saw that there was 100 crore taka in his account. Seeing that amount, he was completely shocked. He verified the account statement and saw that Bhaskar had indeed earned 70 lakh taka in just 2 weeks. But he noticed something else. Bhaskar had also spent 69 lakh taka in a single day. Lakshman Rao asked Bhaskar how he had managed to spend so much money in one day. Then Bhaskar said that a few days after depositing the money in the bank, his sister's marriage got fixed. So, they went into a shop to do some wedding shopping. Bhaskar and his family members looked like ordinary middle-class people. So the owner of the shop mistook them for employees. No one was paying much attention to them, and they were being treated disrespectfully. This deeply hurt Bhaskar's ego. He immediately left the shop went to the bank and withdrew all the money. With that money, he first bought an expensive car, then expensive clothes, watches and shoes. Dressed in a VIP look, he returned to the same shop and stepped out of his car. This time, he walked into the shop and bought all the expensive jewelry. The same people who didn't even speak to Bhaskar properly the last time were now overly respectful and eager to serve him, and this is how Bhaskar began spending his money. Anyway, when he attended his sister's wedding, Bhaskar had already used up all his legal money. The next time, he went to Anwar with the black money he had received from Suraj. Anwar warned him that if someone wins the lottery twice in 3 months, it would raise red flags with the income tax department. So, he advised Bhaskar that they should send the money out of the country through their network, and later bring it back as payments for international purchases. But for this, they needed a private limited company. Samir had been running a food business for a long time, and Bhaskar wanted to open a restaurant, so he used this opportunity to convert Samati's food shop into a formal business. Bhaskar started generating fake bills in the name of that shop, and began turning black money into white. In this way, he began earning huge sums of money. As his wealth grew, so did his arrogance. His behavior changed drastically. He became rude and started flaunting his wealth everywhere. He also started drinking heavily, which led to regular arguments with Samati. Meanwhile, another incident occurred. Hari Haran, the AGM of Qatari Bank, came to meet Bhaskar. Bhaskar told Hari Haran that loans worth 90 crores had been issued in the name of his bank. Hearing this, Hari Haran was shocked. He checked the loan bearer statements and said that he had never signed them. His signatures had been forged, and the loans were taken falsely in the name of Qatari Bank. Hari Haran was completely devastated. If such a massive amount of money was released, it could cause a crash in India's stock market. Hari Haran feared the economy might collapse. The shock gave him a heart attack, and though Bhaskar rushed him to the hospital, he couldn't be saved. Hari Haran's death deeply impacted Bhaskar. He began to fear that one day he too could meet the same fate. He started questioning whether he should continue down this path of corruption. Around the same time, another event took place. Bhaskar went to visit his in-laws. His brother-in-law had recently suffered a business loss and was in bad shape. He needed 50 lakhs. Sumati's mother and his future wife requested Sumati to arrange the money, so she convinced Bhaskar, and Bhaskar arranged the 50 lakhs for her brother. Sumati made it clear that the money belonged to Bhaskar, and it was up to him to decide whether to give it or not. A small argument broke out between Sumati and her mother over this. At one point, her mother snapped at her and said, "You're only able to earn money because I gave you the business plan for the homemade food shop." Sumati felt deeply hurt by this comment. She immediately returned to her shop, shut down the business, and dismantled everything. Even after returning home, Sumati had several heated arguments with Bhaskar. She was unable to accept this new version of Bhaskar. She longed for the simple, down-to-earth Bhaskar from the past. Witnessing this emotional turmoil, Bhaskar's father stepped in and called him to his room. He showed Bhaskar a pile of receipts, payment bills from Sumati's shop. When Bhaskar tried to argue that they belonged to Sumati, his father firmly said, "I was once a chartered accountant. Don't try to fool me. I know what kind of money this is. It's money laundering. This game you're playing is dangerous. Once you did it for the family's needs, but now you're just being greedy, earning money fast and driving fast. Both are dangerous. Get out of this path." Taking his father's advice to heart, Bhaskar walked out of the room and saw that Sumati had overheard their entire conversation. This only increased the tension between them. After that, Bhaskar made the decision to leave his life of wrongdoing. First, he shut down the trading company. The next time Suraj came with Harsha's loan papers, Bhaskar tore them up and threw Suraj out. He even disobeyed the orders of the GM and the chairman, and stood firm in his decision. Bhaskar apologized to all the people he had mistreated. He sent money to his brother to buy a house in London. He registered 2 houses in his sister's name. He also gave 50 lakhs to his brother-in-law and told him that he didn't need to return the money. But in return, he should give 10% of his profit to Samba, because Samba had lost everything in the business. Earlier, Patel's bike had collided with Bhaskar's car, and Bhaskar had broken his bike. This time, Bhaskar apologized to Patel and bought him a new bike. He even gifted his beloved Maruti car to someone else. In this way, Bhaskar began making up for all his past mistakes. As a result, his relationship with Sumati also started to improve. However, not everyone was able to accept this new, reformed Bhaskar. Since Harsha's loan didn't get approved, both the GM and Bhaskar were summoned. In that meeting, Bhaskar got angry and resigned from his job. Everyone in the office was shocked by his decision. They liked Bhaskar a lot, and his departure made everyone very sad. 2 days after leaving the job, CBI officers came and picked up Bhaskar. This was the full story of Bhaskar up to that point. Now, let's see what happened after that. CBI officer Lakshmana told Bhaskar that he had technically converted black money into white, so they wouldn't be able to charge him with money laundering. However, they could still send Bhaskar and Sumuti's bank transaction statements to the Income Tax and Enforcement Directorate departments and freeze their accounts. To unfreeze the account, Bhaskar would have to run around government offices endlessly, and his life would be ruined. The account would likely never become active again, so Lakshmana offered Bhaskar a deal. If he wanted to save himself, he had to write a check for 100 crores in the name of the company Grow High and transfer the amount to Hasar's account. That money would then be sent back to the bank, which would save Bhaskar as well as the bank's funds. After listening to Lakshmana's so-called solution, Bhaskar realized that this man too was involved in the entire scam. Before Bhaskar could respond, the GM and chairman entered the office and forced him to sign the check. Bhaskar signed it and left, laughing. They thought that Bhaskar's story ended there, but the real shock came when they went to process the check. They found out that Bhaskar had withdrawn all the money from the account 10 days earlier and had also deactivated the account. Everyone was stunned and started wondering, where is Bhaskar? By that time, Bhaskar was already on a plane, minutes away from landing in America. In truth, Bhaskar had sensed trouble ahead and had shared everything with his father a few weeks earlier. On his father's advice, Bhaskar met a broker. The broker told him that by spending 1 crore rupees, he could get a conditional green card for America, and after 5 years he could become a citizen. Bhaskar began preparing to move to America. Anthony was already in America. Bhaskar took help from him and through him purchased a hotel there. For the rest of the work, he took help from some of his father's contacts. In this way, he quickly processed the American visa and successfully fled to the United States with his family. However, before leaving, Bhaskar caused one final explosion. He informed the RBI about the scam involving the chairman and GM. As a result, the RBI team launched an inquiry at Magadha Bank. After reviewing the bank statements, they also discovered the name of Hasar Mehera. Not only that, but even CBI officer Lakshmana was implicated in the case. After exposing all of them, Bhaskar settled in America and started running a full-fledged hotel business. He lived a peaceful life with his family. And that is where the story of Lucky Bhaskar comes to an end. Viewers, there is nothing wrong with earning money. But while earning, never compromise your honesty, morality, or conscience. Remember, money is important, but it's not everything. Money cannot buy happiness, peace, or strong relationships. Therefore, as we work to earn money, let us also strive to be good human beings. That's all for today, viewers. Thanks for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to comment below and tell me what movie or series you want me to recap next.